Recording is in progress. I like that. Recording in progress. So welcome everybody. Today's lesson's on tables. In this lesson, we'll look at some of the elements that we find in tables, so table rows, table head, table footer, table data, and how we can sort of work with CSS on those. Now, I've got a very sensitive mouse, so wish me luck on this. Maybe if I just drag from there. Yeah, okay, so these are the things we're going to talk about in today's lesson. There is a video on this that Mr. Hussam did as well that I left a link for you. So we're going to look at all those things very quickly, and then I'm going to leave you to it. The other thing that we're going to do today is maybe I'll introduce the project so you can get started on that. So here's a table, and some cool things happened in this table. And maybe by the end of today's exercise, and I'll ask you to do the exercise to kind of make this table. If you follow through the video, I'm not going to go through all the things that's in the video, but the video link, if you follow through that video, Mr. Hussam goes step by step in how to make this table. And so it's not too hard. So the cool things that you need to watch out for to make this table. Okay, of course, we've got our rows and our columns. The thing that we've done is we've got a row span and a column span here. So we've got a row span here where we put two rows together. That's not hard. We've got a row span command to do that, right? We just put it right into the tag. The thing is that when you do the row span, you need to probably, if you had some data in these cells, you're probably going to have to delete some cells. You'll see that in the video if you look at the video that Mr. Hussam did. If we row span here two cells, we made two cells into one, we're going to have to delete one cell. Here we made three cells into one, where we did a column span, and so we had to delete two cells. And then you just have to identify the cells that you need to delete. Otherwise, it throws your table structure out, and it looks really bad, and it doesn't work. So what other things we got going on there? We got a banding going on. And so what we did with the banding is we have a thing called nth child, which is a pseudo class. Some people told me they knew about that. So you've heard about this before. You're going to be implementing that. I'm going through this a little bit quickly because I've discovered that you guys kind of know this stuff. So you're going to be kind of bored if I just sit here talking about it. Basic table structure. Again, you know all this stuff, right? Something to know there about the table being a block structure. You can take a table and stick it inside another table. You can take a table and stick it inside another element. And then the way that the table is going to behave is like your other block elements. And so, yeah, you can center it, etc. So the table is made up of cells. A cell is going to be something like this is a cell. This is a cell. Cells there, two different types of cells. We got these table header cells, and they're going to be bold. Now, I would say that table header cells are going to be for horizontal headers, but not always. You can have vertical headers as well, but in which case you just put them at the start of every row. But if you have a row at the top, which where you put your TH tags, then that's going to be a horizontal set of headers. And so in the table that I just showed you in the one above, we actually have both, don't we? Down the side here, we've got our vertical headers, and across there, we've got horizontal headers. And we've done a lot of row spanning and column spanning there as well. Okay, so yeah, basically, as I said, you know all this stuff, and so I don't want to bore you to tears. We'll get through it kind of quickly. All right, so two different types, head, TH and TD. It really is just about how it shows up. The TH is going to be a bit bolder. And but the thing is, because we've got a different tag, TH and TD, we can style them differently. And so that's the real thing in there. So we don't have to use an ID or anything or a class that's already sort of got its own separate way. Sorry about this. Yeah, all right. So you remember the borders? By default, we're not getting a border. So we actually have to put a border on in the HTML. And when we got the border on, if we just leave it like that, we may end up with double borders, because if everything's got a border, like every cell here's got a border and the table itself's got a border, then we end up with double lines between everything. So that can be removed by doing this collapse. And I'm sure you remember that too, right? And so, yeah, again, nothing new there. Row span and column span, I already spoke about that. Okay, you good with that? So, well, let's have a look. We're row spanning 2. That's the 2 that we're row spanning. We're row spanning those 2. Only for those 2 cells there, right? So we're just going to do that we will go into the specific tag, tag that we want to do the row span just once, and we'll put it in, and then we'll delete the next one that would have been spanned into it, right? So we had, from what there was before, there was student ID, and so in the top student ID one, we went into the tag and we put the row span. Then the second one, we just deleted it. And the same for here. The first one, we put the column span in, and the other 2, we delete. Yeah, I think that's enough on that. Going through it rather quickly, as I said, because students tell me that they've done all this. So the idea of the groups is that, well, we always like to have ways that we can use our selectors, right? So that we can style a specific part of the web page different than another. So one thing, we might want to style different parts of the table differently. And so we can add these so that we've got sort of an area that we can work in a certain way. So you have table head. These are optional. Don't need to have them, but you can put them in there. What shows up more often is table head and table body. Less often table foot. So what you'll do is between these tags, you'll just put the rows that you want to have your headings in, or the rows that you want to have your body in, or the rows that you want to have your footer in. And so in this case, what they've done, or what Hussam's done, is he's made a different color for the table head. And you saw that if you remember just a minute ago when we looked at that table. You see that we got the light blue there for the header. So what we've done is we put TH tags, or sorry, T head tag before and after all of that stuff. And then when we do the CSS, we made it that light blue color. Yeah, so there we go. What else we got? Okay, here's the fun bit. So what we want to do here is we want to have banded rows. And there's a reason for that. You guys seen this before, right? Some of you have, some of you haven't. So do I need to slow down now? Because you haven't seen this before? All right, so maybe the one thing that you haven't seen before is the banded rows. So with the banded rows, how we can achieve that is we don't have to go and touch every row, all right, and put some special tag on it and say this one is going to be green and that one is going to be green. We can use a pseudo class. And so pseudo classes, we start with these things here with these columns, right? So what we're saying here is a pseudo class, and we can do an nth child. There's another one that we can do, but we'll do the nth child. We can do the nth type if we want it, or we can do the nth child. And with nth child, we can go odd, even, or we can do every third or every fourth. It doesn't have to be just odds and evens. There's other things that we could do, but typically you would have seen this if you were reading a computer report printout from 30 years ago, that they would have lines, and it makes it a lot easier to read if it's 2 different colors. So that also translates to the screen, because nowadays most things aren't getting printed out. There's a lot less printers around. People are doing a lot more stuff just online, and that's enough for them. But what we find is it's a lot easier to read that line if it's a different color than the one below it. And so that's why we're doing this banded. So the even and odd works really good. And so what we're going to do with this, as it says there, is we just say odd or even, and then we give it a color and make it a different color than the other one. And now, if you've got a table structure like the one that we've got showing here, we might have to do sort of more than one of these just to make sure that we get every row involved. I'm sorry, here's. Can use type or child, yes. You'll see in the video that Mr. Hussam made that he only used the child one. It's a little bit more sort of easier to use. But yes, you can use type or child. Okay, so this is about the columns. We don't actually specifically have a thing called a TC or something, you know, a table column. There's no such thing, right? We just have table rows and table headers, THTR. So how do we style a column? If we wanted to make this column all one color and this column all one color, that happens sometimes in some reports also. Or there's something that we wanted to do with a particular column. So what we would do is we would make a class of it. Okay, so you make a class for a particular column and then you style the class. And so that's what this is showing in, or you could, class would be, you would use a class. And so, for example, you could declare a class on one cell, and then on the other cells in that column, you could use that class, and then you could make them all a particular width. Yes.
What does the NTH mean?
Uh-huh.
The pseudocode. Yeah, and
The nth?
yeah. What does it mean?
The nth child?
Yeah.
Okay, so nth child. So remember, we've got a hierarchical structure in our HTML, right? Parents and children.
Yeah.
So so we're talking about the child of this table, which is going to be the rows, right? And so the nth means we're counting, and so n could be another number. It doesn't have to be 2. But if we're using odd and even, it's going to be 2. So that means that we're going to move in multiples of 2 through the table children, and then we're going to style them this way. So maybe all the odd children will get this color, or all the even children will get this color. But it doesn't have to be odd and even. We could use number 3, 4, 5. What else? So I mean, I encourage you to sort of look that up. Just do the nth child and see what other numbers you could use. Basically, did I answer the question about the child? Yeah. Okay. All right. So what's happening here with the height property? And you'll see that in the video. The height will be automatically adjusted to fit in all of the text or image or whatever you've got inside that cell. So if you've got a table row and the first cell, you put a bunch of data in it, a bunch of words in it, or an image, then that will expand the height of that cell and the whole row will be that height. Okay, so that will be the minimum height for that. So the minimum height will be enough to take up, to cover everything that's in that cell. But what if you want to have it a little bit more than the stuff in the cell? Maybe the cell's only got a little bit of stuff in it, and you want it to take up a bit more height. You can space it out by using a height 50%. And again, whenever you see these percents, that's percent for this element relative to its parent. So relative to the child, a full row. Then the vertical alignment, you got a default there where it's just going to align it into the middle, but you can pull the text or whatever up to the top of the cell or down to the bottom. And you can do a horizontal alignment just with the text align that you've probably already used. So as I said, I think you'd seen all of this. Oh, come on. Oh, well, that's it. So what I encourage you guys to do, I'm going to close this. Oh, any questions on this now?
There is no link. There's no link.
Okay. There's no link in the video, but there should be in the I'm sorry, not class list. It should be in the message. Is there no link there? I didn't put a link. Well, this is the link. Table CSS. So he spends an hour going through what I did in 10 minutes.
So will we have something to do today?
All right, so yeah, you can go through that video if you like. I think I got mine turned up to twice as fast. So you don't have to have it that fast. So, oh no, that's normal. All right, so yeah. So yeah, do we have anything else to do today? Yes, we do. So there's the link. If you want to watch that. So watch his thing and then make that table and put it into the Dropbox. The Dropbox is here. All right, so the others, did I answer your question? No, I guess not. Still got his hand up.
Like I see the due date for the project is like tomorrow.
That's not the due date for the project. That's the due date for part 0. And part 0 is where you decide and you tell me what your project's going to be about. So it's kind of like a storefront type of thing. And so the idea, the due date for tomorrow is just so that you will have something that's not the same as your neighbors, so that your neighbor doesn't do all your work for you. All right, that's the idea of it, right? So that's all that's about. It's like, you know, everybody's going to do something. What are you going to do that's different than everybody else? You can do that by tomorrow, I think, right? It's you don't have to write any code. You don't have to do any wireframes. All you have to do is say, this is what my store is going to be. And it's not going to be the same as his store. That's all. Okay. Yes.
The Dropbox is not working.
So who's not working?
The Dropbox for today's exam.
It's probably not. I probably made it. I probably have hidden it. Sorry, that sounds wrong. The default for the Dropbox when I created is it's hidden, and maybe I didn't unhide it. So I'll look at that. So let's look at the project. So part 0. This is what you have to do by tomorrow, and that's what's got everybody scared. Decide what company that's it. Decide what company your website will be about. Get your instructor's approval. That's me. I have to say that. Yes, that's different. And my approval is just, that's different than everybody else's. That's all it is, right? I'm not here to say, oh, that's a dumb idea, or that's a great idea. It's just to say, oh yeah, nobody else has done that. That's fine. Okay. Make sure your idea is unique. Make sure you instructor approval before you start. So really, that's all I'm looking for, is that you're not copying from your neighbor. It must be like that for the project. That's all.
So
Is it individual or group project?
I believe it's individual. Sorry. When is your first test? All right, so I had this discussion a minute ago with people that came a bit earlier. In our other class, we're talking about doing a mid-semester exam next week. Mr. Hussam has indicated to me that he's not in favor of doing things too soon. So it will be next week or after. It won't be this week, but that's a really good question, and I should remember to tell you as soon as I know. And I'll try
I
to.
prefer not next week, the week after.
Yeah. And I think that's what Mr. Hussam does as well. And that's lucky that he thinks that way, since he's okay. So hopefully that's helpful. That's what you need to do. Then you'll see that the other things about the project are there. Hopefully yeah, not too much for you to sort of consider. Yeah. Okay, so let me look at the Dropbox and see what's the problem there. I think I can stop recording now, right?